Management 210. Please.
Are you more nervous than that?
I don't know what to say. Please relax and enjoy yourselves. We'll start with opening statements by those defending the Smith perspective.
Okay. So Smith thought that you should focus on the individual and the idea that the individual can move up in the world, and that people are self-motivated, which leads to specialization, allowing them to enjoy their work while making a nice living for themselves.
And this can best be achieved through laissez-faire, which is a form of government where the government is uninvolved in the market and you're allowed to go about all of your market practices as you please. And this gives people freedom from the government, not freedom to do what they want.
Smith felt that people came together in the marketplace, and that by bringing specialized goods to sell in the marketplace, this created competition because there are other people also bringing their specialized goods to that same marketplace.
And this competition then automatically results in harmony and stability with lower prices and higher quality products with more variety, and there's a lot lower cost to manufacture with less waste.
Okay, thank you. Marks.
Okay. In a capitalist society, employment isn't guaranteed. An individual is told that he or she is lazy if they don't generate enough income to support their basic needs. That they're not working hard enough, or that they don't possess enough education to have an advanced skill set that would garner high wages. All of that is untrue. Individuals do have an incentive to work and make an income. However, capitalists have a more powerful incentive to exploit and alienate their workers.
Possessing the means of survival is a basic human right that everyone should have. And everyone's entitled to shelter, food, education, and health care, and the necessities required to live. And as Marxists, we believe that a collective economy and public ownership is the best option, because when big business controls the majority of power, it creates a wealth gap and a significant class division, which contributes to an unstable economy.
In capitalism, there is never a guarantee that all individuals will encounter employment and have the means to survive, but there is a guarantee that they will be exploited with long work hours, paid minimum wages, and not have the ability to escape poverty and upwardly mobilize. Capitalism also guarantees small business owners to close their doors as they succumb to the monopolies of powerful capitalists. Socialism grants all individuals a true definition of equality, which includes access to capital and basic needs. No citizen shall be excluded.
Marx believes that a capitalist economy is cyclical, thus being susceptible to booms and busts, which adds to the unemployment rate. Conflict is inevitable, as there is no harmony with capitalists obtaining higher profits than the income wages that workers make. The invention of a new technology ends up replacing workers, which increases layoffs, and unemployment then also increases. Marx also believes that the free market divides classes. So under wealth distribution, Marx assures that all citizens will be employed and receive access to all of their basic needs.
Thank you. Keynesians?
Keynes believes that combined demand brought on by households, businesses, and the government, and not just the free markets, is probably the most influential force in our economy. He also believes that free markets do not have stable systems in place that could lead to full employment. So Keynes knew that government intervention in our economy through maybe public policies would achieve full employment and price stability.
Keynesians realize that our economy is cyclical. There's a cycle. There's times of booms where the economy is flourishing and people are able to buy the supply that is out there There's also a bust that means that the economy is in a recession. He also believes that the market matters, that the market, again, is cyclical, but he also realizes that the individuals are important, that it's each person in the economy matters, and those individuals play a strong role in our economy when they're employed. This employment stems from having that high demand.
Also, in Keynes' perspective, in order to create supply, we have to have demand in order to have economy, which is both supply and demand. Therefore, having a government role in the economy creates demand, leading to supply, leading to the creation of jobs for individuals, since he's about individuals and keeping the economy flowing. Individuals who can produce and then consume, which will boost our economy and also lower the rate for unemployment.
Therefore, the government, in conjunction with the private sectors, assists with the flow of the economy. The government has provided necessary means for the private sectors to use in order for them to grow and allow the economy to keep moving forward. Together, they create the cyclical effect that the economy requires.
Thank you. First question from the floor for the defenders of Smith's perspective.
Okay, on October 5th of this year, Air France workers ripped the shirts off of the executives after their meeting where they discussed laying off 2,900 people from Air France. And in a capitalist economy, how could you avoid workers unionizing and protesting against wages and harsh work conditions?
So we'd like to start out by saying that if workers are unhappy, they can always go somewhere else that they are more pleased with what they're doing, and they wouldn't have to stay and form a union at their current workplace.
Because there's a pool of people who are not employed who would happily take their jobs, so the capitalists could just fire the workers who are causing problems and hire new people to replace them who would be happy to have their job.
Rebuttal by the two groups. Speak to each other.
So that you agree about the question that was asked to them, right? As far as
What is that?
yeah, their question, right? So as they're asking, okay, the capitalists, how can you picket lines and union? First of all,
Okay, so they're saying that. How do you prevent like forming unions and stuff like that? Okay, so government puts in place standards for companies, so we can have proper benefits, and capitalists doesn't care about government. Those rules are put in place.
All right, ladies. Rebuttal one. Rebuttal to question one. For the classical, for the Smith perspective from the Marxists.
If you say that if they are unhappy with their working conditions and they can just go and find another job, well, what happens if that other job also does not provide adequate working conditions and they don't find it suitable for them? And if you continue to create these jobs that have these uninhabitable conditions and they're not allowed to then unionize, well, what happens? You continue to have this reserve of people that are unemployed that may be looking for work, but their conditions allow them to not find jobs that are actually employable.
Yeah, I would just argue that the exploitation of workers in a capitalist society is extremely common, so that people will then not be able to find any jobs that don't create harsh work conditions. So then you're going to create a whole population of workers that are going to be in conflict with all of the business owners. And
Thank you. Rebuttal by the Keynesians to the classical economy.
Okay, so you're saying that if they're unhappy, then they can go to another company and start work. Well, with a Keynesian government, that wouldn't necessarily happen as much because they'll have government rules and policies in place for each company, so they won't have unsatisfactory labor conditions, and unions won't form. Then they won't form. So companies will have a higher retention, and then those people can grow within that company and grow their careers.
Yeah, and also with the Keynesian theory, as opposed to the capitalists have a tendency to ignore the social benefits of employees. So in other words, what that means is they do not provide goods for a positive reason for their employees, or even externals for that matter, such as things dealing with health and education or transportation. And in the same sense, in a capitalist theory, because of the free market, they're more likely to also ignore the issues such as pollution coming from all their production.
Thank you. Last word?
So as a rebuttal to Marx, people are able to keep changing what their job is and finding a specialization that they do enjoy. And if they are really unhappy with what they're doing and what they're finding that's out there and available for them to work in, they can start their own business and have their own job. That's one of the great things about having a capitalist market, is that they can start out. We actually have an example of, there was someone who fled to Hong Kong because they were really unhappy with their living conditions, and he was actually able to start his own business, and today his net worth is over $26.5 billion because he, in a free market, created his own business that was it had such a great reaction to it that he started out low in life. He was able to then raise up and have his own business and create something other people wanted to work for and he was happy working in.
And also in a capitalist society, people are self-interested, so they'd be willing to work to provide for themselves, whether that meant harsh conditions or not. They need to put food on the table, they need to keep a house over their head. They're willing to work for what they need. And then to Keynes, I feel like we weren't really talking about a Keynesian government, like we were talking about a capitalist government, so under that, I don't think that it would really be our job to provide like healthcare to them. We give them a wage, which is supposed to be helping them make a better life for themselves. And about the waste and taking care of pollution, as competition increases, we have to find ways to make less waste and less pollution to make our goods more efficiently. So the competition creates less waste, less pollution.
We also want to keep our consumers happy, so if a consumer is not happy with something we're doing, we're going to be changing our practices to please them, so they're going to want to continue to purchase our product and support our company.
Thank you. Thank you. Question one, now from the floor for the Marxists.
Okay, alright, so although capitalists are gaining more of a profit than the workers, won't the pursuit of profit lead them to discover new opportunities and develop new businesses for in the economy, resulting in more employment, more jobs being created?
Okay. All right, time to listen to the Marxists.
Oftentimes, the money does not get reinvested back into the economy to create new jobs, to find workers. As an example, there's the number one company that makes the most profit in America is Walmart. Last 2004 fiscal year, they made $485.7 billion, and of that amount of money, 19.4 million went back to their CEO, whereas they pay their workers about less than $10 per hour. So they create jobs, but they create minimum wage jobs and jobs that don't provide a living wage for their employees to live off of. But also in 2014, the Fortune 500 companies withheld $2.1 trillion overseas to avoid paying their taxes. So $2.1 trillion is something that could have been invested back into their workers, but instead they decided to keep it in overseas tax havens, so they don't have to then pay their taxes, which not necessarily so much paying their taxes, but in a sense that that's money that could have been used to reinvest into, given to their workers to reinvest into the economy, but that's not how it worked, as they withhold a lot of money. So no, they're not going to reinvest back into their workers. They tend to keep large profits to go to CEOs and other board members and other money to keep that they don't have to pay taxes on.
I was also just gonna say that a lot of money also goes towards like technology to help replace jobs, because technology is essentially more efficient. So like things turn into ATMs where like that's more of a technological situation, and like self-checkout lines versus creating more jobs for cashiers to work in and making like an earnable living. Online sales versus like in-store sales, things of that nature.
Alrighty, rebuttal? Marxists first, please.
They are the Marxists.
I mean, by the
Smith.
Smiths to the Marxists.
Okay, well, Walmart is, whether they're replacing jobs or not, or however much they're paying them, they're employing people who might not have a job otherwise, people who don't have a high school education, people who don't have a GED, someone who might be even illiterate, people who don't get jobs anywhere else are getting jobs there.
And we'd also like to point out that while Walmart is supplying these jobs, in the last year they lost between $30 and $40 million because consumers were personally unhappy with the company, so they're choosing to support other companies, which then is that invisible hand shifting in the market without government intervention that consumers then are going to go to a different company that they like more and support them instead of supporting a company that they don't like, and then that may take people who are working there and give them other opportunities as well at other jobs.
And it also shows Walmart that if they want to get their consumers back, they're gonna have to make a change in the way they treat their employees.
And this is all without government intervention having to step in and do something for it.
Okay. Keynesian.
We would like to say that Keynesians do realize that the CEOs are the ones that most of the time get most of the money back, and it doesn't always go to the employees, and that does make the employees unhappy and they leave. And that is where the Keynesian economy would be the ones that would be the most helpful to get us out of that little hole. We would be the ones there to help those employees or ex-employees with stimulus checks and things to get them back on their feet until they found a new company to go to. Our Keynesian theories and the way we would have the government intervene would be most beneficial.
Yeah, and we also want to acknowledge that we're not saying that the government intervention is gonna work all the time. As we very well know, it doesn't always work, and sometimes you have to look at different situations on when is the best time for them to step in, such as with the companies. I mean, it would be nice if we or the government could control that, but you know, the private sector is controlling how they are dealing with their money. So the example of Walmart not investing back in their employees or into their business, that's them deciding it, but not all corporations do that, such as Starbucks. When you are an employee of Starbucks, you automatically are invested in that company. That's a given. Or the other way example that sometimes, and you know, I'm the first to admit it, that it doesn't always work for the government. We have the Veterans Facility or Administration. That is federally owned by the veterans, but yet they don't get the best food. They don't have enough nurses to go around with all the patients that are there. And the reason why, that's where the capitalists come in, because the CEOs and the people who operate that are pocketing the bonuses instead of putting it back in the facility.
Thank you. Last word by the Marxists. All right, Marxists.
Well, just to respond to the Smith people, I would argue that one of the main tenets or one of the main values of your perspective is kind of discredited because you're basically agreeing with us then that the trickle-down effect is real. If you're saying that, yes, people are unhappy with Walmart because they don't trickle down their profit, so people are then leaving them and finding other opportunities.
As for the Keynes group, one of the issues that we have is with the government intervention, that it's not always a guarantee that the stimulus money is going to the workers. If you take the example of the 2007 bust, when we went into our recession, what happened in 2008 is that the capitalists are the ones that received the corporate welfare. They were the ones that were compensated for the predatory loans that the banks issued. So if we can't guarantee that, in this way, more money is being taken from the workers, we're the ones that are paying to prevent certain capitalists from going out of business and assuring that they're able to keep their jobs and they're able to keep their business open, when instead it should be going to make sure, we should be guaranteeing that all the time it's the workers that are always going to be fairly compensated for the amount of work that we do.
It kind of almost seems like we all agree in some aspect that the trickle-down effect isn't working because, you know, the CEOs are keeping all of the money, and even though they're all different ways, like, it's not hitting the employees, like the lower ones, and they're either leaving their jobs or what have you.
All right, thank you. So, first question from the floor for the Keynesians.
So, Keynes says that profits and savings have to be immediately spent, or the circular flow of money in the economy would be interrupted, output would fall, and large-scale unemployment would occur. However, we all learned in class how the well-off and the rich tend to save more and spend less. What happens if the economy slows down because people are holding on to their money and trying to get rich?
All right, ladies.
So what we're getting from your question is that you're saying that the lower class sees the richer saving their money, so that they're gonna be like, oh, let's save our money too, so that we can be rich too.
It's the American dream, isn't it?
Great.
Yes, but no, because there's always a need for things. No matter what class you're in, everyone in this classroom probably has a cell phone or an Android. No matter what class what class of money we're in, there's always that need and that want to have those fancy, nice, shiny things. Even if a $300 car payment is rough, but I really want that fancy car. Most people will do it because they feel like they have the same things that those rich people have. They're not going to save their money. They're going to spend their money to be able to feel as good as the rich people do.
And sometimes we have to keep in theory also, like in your statement saying, you know, the people who have money are gonna save their money, you know, because they work for the money, they're gonna save it, they're not gonna spend it, and then the poor wanna do the same thing.
Right.
But you also have to keep in mind that not always the rich, work to be rich. Some rich have been born into it. Some rich have inherited it and didn't have to work a dime, didn't have to work an hour for it. So it's not always based on, I worked to get this way by saving money. There is the wealthy that are born into it, and there's the wealthy that inherit it, and there's nothing you can do about it. Boy, I wish I could inherit it, yes. But we have to keep in mind that there's different scenarios based on that. And me, as a middle-class person, I'm not gonna think that if I start saving money, I'm gonna get rich like the rich. It's just not gonna happen. The only way I'm going to be able to succeed is to be able to utilize what is out there for me, such as education. We wouldn't have education here right now if we didn't have government intervention, because the private sector sure isn't gonna wanna give us any money. And if they wanna give us money, they're gonna make us pay double back what we borrowed. So there's the government intervention, and that's where I'm gonna get my education, so I can at least live comfortably. So we gotta remember that the rich is not that way just because they save money. Some people are born into it, and some people inherit it.
Thank you. Rebuttal by the,
Marxist. No, Smith, you mean?
Smith or Marx, doesn't matter. One of you rebut. Smith people rebut.